Hey everybody, the Miss Peg here with a homework help video on solving multi-step equations. As always, I'm going to jump right into the work. So if you are following along, let me pull my pen up here. If you're following along, what we are doing is multi-step equations. I will attach the video down below so that you can print one out for yourself and try to follow along if you do not have this homework but you are just trying to get some extra help. Okay, so as we do always, jump right into it. So number one here says negative 43 minus 4r equals 3 times, here we have distributive property, 1 minus 9r. So let's tackle this. The first thing I notice is that I have to do this 3 times 1 and this 3 times negative 1r. Don't forget the sign is always in front of the number. So here we go. I have 3 times 1 is 3. And if 3 times negative r is negative 27r. On the other side, I'm just going to drop down the terms that were there, and I can move on to my second step. So my first step was to distribute, okay? Now I notice I have a variable on each side of the equal sign, but my goal is to get all those variables together on one side. We want to isolate that variable. That's the whole point of solving, to get an answer for r equals what number. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to get one of these to the other side. So either I can do the inverse operation of this minus 4r and do plus 4r on both sides, or I can choose to do it with the minus 27 and do plus 27 on both sides. The easier math here is just to add 4r on both sides. Again, I'm adding that 4r to the minus 27r because they're like terms. They both have that variable r. So here I have an integer addition problem. It's negative 27 plus 4. So you would ask yourself, are those same or are those different? Well, those are different. One is negative and one is positive. So the rule becomes subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So 27 minus 4 is 23. And since 27 is technically absolute value larger than the number 4, and the 27 was negative, we're going to keep the sign of the negative. So it's negative 23r. And drop down everything else. So I still had a 3. And this term canceled out. That's inverse operation. Negative and a positive of the same cancels out. And so I have a negative 43. What we have left is a two-step equation. Okay, so I'm going to box the variable r, because that's what I'm solving for, and see what needs to go. Well, this negative 23 still needs to go, but I'm going to hold that for later. Work further away from the variable first. So over here, I have a 3. I know it's a positive 3 because there's nothing in front of it. So the inverse operation of 3, or positive 3, is negative 3 or minus 3. So I'm going to do minus 3 on both of those sides. So this is my favorite part. I just cancel that out. No work. But I do have to bring down this negative 23r that we are still working with. All right. Then I will come over and I have, okay, negative 43 minus 3. Again, that's an integer problem where we're subtracting with negatives. So that rule says we're going to keep the first term, change the subtraction to addition, and then change the number to its opposite. So I'm going to keep this negative 43 plus, and then this 3 becomes a negative 3. So now I'm adding two negatives. And when you add two negatives, they're the same. So you just add them and keep the negative. So then I have here negative 46. Okay? It's already looking right to me, and I think I probably would have the math right because I can already see a relationship here between negative 46 and negative 23. So I box the variable and see what needs to go is this negative 23. Well, when they're stuck together like this, that says that they are being multiplied originally. So to undo that, we have to do the opposite or inverse operation, divide. So we divide both sides by the entire coefficient here, negative 23. These cancel out, and now I do have r isolated, and I have negative 46 divided by negative 23 is 2. How did I get 2? Well, 23 goes into 46 2 times. And since they are both negatives, the rules for multiplying and dividing with integers, if they are the same sign, your answer is positive. If they are different signs, then your answer is negative. So that first one there is r equals the number 2. Today we're not going back to check our work, we're just getting our work complete. Okay, so the second one, this one is different because we do have a negative out front. So we have negative 2 times negative 9, two negatives, that's positive 18m. And now we have a negative 2 plus times another negative 2. So again, that turns into a positive 4. And I still have a negative 1 hanging out here. I'm basically recording the rest of the problem down. That's my first step. So when I analyze this site here, I see again, I have a situation where I have a variable on both sides of the equation that I need to combine those because they are like terms. So I need to combine all the m's to one side. All right, again, this is going to be the whole paper. All right, that's what we're learning today. I think it's easier to subtract 10m from both sides because the math is just easier to do and you're less likely to make mistakes. This term cancels out, and here I have 18m minus 10m leaves me with 8m. The other step I can put together here, so that's done. This 27 can come down, and this is an equals. Now, I can combine these while I'm here in this step and save myself a whole line of writing. So here I have positive 4 minus 1. So that's just saying 4 minus 1 is 3. So plus 3. So I'm going to box my variable, see what needs to go. That 8 needs to go, but it's stuck together, and we're going to hold that for later. So I'm going to work with this plus 3 first. So again, do the opposite, minus 3 on both of the sides. Cancels out, my favorite part. And I have 8m equals 27 minus 3 is 24. When I start to see those relationships forming in the end of the problem, I start to feel kind of confident and happy that I think my numbers are working out correctly. So 8m means they are being multiplied. So I always say if it's multiplied, if it's stuck together, divide it out. All right, that's the inverse. So I'm going to divide both sides by that coefficient 8 and get m equals 8 divided by 24, which is 3. So that's your answer to number 2. Let me scroll down here to the next group of problems. Let me just use it like this. Okay. Sometimes it's good when you're doing your work to put a little music on in the background if that helps you to stay focused. Some people do a good job listening to music while they work. Some people like to have some noise in the background. Other people need to just stay really quiet and focused. So whatever is your way, do that for yourself, especially when you're doing homework. You're at home, make the math enjoyable for you so you can really absorb the content. Okay, number 3, we're going to say the same thing over and over again. So we're going to pick up the pace. All right, so 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 4 is 28x. Those were very straightforward with no negatives. I drop the rest down and continue to work the problem. I notice I have 2 x terms to combine. I'm going to do the easier math, looks like to subtract 7 on both sides instead of working with that 28. So I cross those out, 49 equals 7, and now here I have 28 minus 7, which will give me 21x. Okay? Box the variable and see what needs to go. Again, we're always going to hold that coefficient, that term that has the coefficient and variable stuck together, we always save that for last. All right? So I'm going to work here with the 7. So there's nothing in front of the 7, no plus sign or minus sign, so it just means it's regular positive 7. That's where I'll do the opposite, minus 7 on both of the sides. These cancel out, and 49 minus 7 is 42. Over here, I just have left over my 21x. Your mind should be thinking, I think I see a relationship between 21 and 42. Divide out 21 on both sides. And yes, 42 divided by 21 is again the number 2 like we saw in problem number 1. On to number 4. A key thing when you're working and you have a lot of work to do, when you finish one problem, just go straight to the next problem. Persevere in getting that problem done, okay? Here, I have a little bit more complicated things to look at, as I have a negative 6 out front on the right-hand side of my equation. Don't be bothered by that, just bring it down to start. So negative 6. And now let me do my distributive property. Negative 9 times n is negative 9n, and negative 9 times positive 3 is minus or negative 27. Over here, I have left Negative 13 minus 7n. We have a lot of negatives in this problem. All right, so again, I have a variable, and I'm going to work with the 7. So I'm going to add 7n on both sides. Chose that because it was a little bit smaller, easier number to work with. All right, so now I have negative 9 plus 7. Those are different, so we take the sign of the bigger number after we subtract. So 9 minus 7 is 2, and the 9 was negative, so we went ahead and kept that a negative. The other thing I noticed, so I have this, I'm going to box this for you really fast, that negative's along with it. But I see here minus 6 minus 27, or negative 6 minus 27. Since they both continue in the negative direction, that's why they're the same, you just add them together and keep the negative, okay? So 7 at 6, we've got 13, carry the 1, so we have negative 33. All right, over here, minus 2n is still there with us. And then over here, we still have a 13. So don't forget to bring that minus 2n down. What we did is we combined this and this together to make this step right here. So those were done, but that negative 2n was still hanging out to be brought down to the next line. Box the variable and see what needs to go. If it's stuck together, save it for last. So I'm going to do minus 33. I'll do the opposite, plus 33 on both of the sides. These cancel out. I still have my negative 2n. Don't forget that negative sign. That's one of the most common mistakes students make, forgetting to bring down a negative to the next line. And then over here, I have 3 and 3 is 6, 1 and 3 is 4. That's positive. Divide both sides by the entire coefficient. Don't forget that negative. So 46 divided by 2 is a negative 2 is going to give us a negative 23 because 23 times 2 is 46 and only one of those terms was negative. I hope you're getting the hang of this by now, and this should be an easy practice for you to get through. After you do enough of these, you start to get the hang of it and they all look a bit the same. So what I'm going to do is continue on. Again, pick up the pace a second time. I'm going to stop talking, but I want for you to go ahead and pay attention when you're doing the math. Imagine what would I be telling you that step is as you're following along with that step. So here in number 5. Oop. A little blurb right there. So that says negative 5b. Let me just erase it for you. And make sure that I get the numbers right. Boom. Okay, so negative 5b minus 15 because we had a negative and a positive. Okay? When you go too fast, sometimes those are the little mistakes you make. So please be careful and pay attention to the details. All right. Sometimes it's just those little details in life that can trip you up. It's the small things that mess you up, not the big things. Usually we understand all the big things. I'm going to work with these now. So, opposite. So we have negative 15 plus 1 gives us a negative 14. Divide it out. When they're stuck together, remember, divide it out. Don't forget if there's a negative in your coefficient, keep that negative when you divide it out. Didn't need that B on there. So we have 2 negatives here, so that's going to equal a positive answer. I'm not going to put a plus sign, just know it's positive. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. All right, straight to the next one. Here we go. Here we have a negative in front of the distributive property, which we hadn't seen that example yet. So anytime you have, let's say, a variable x, you can put a 1 in front of it. Anytime you have a number you want to make a fraction, you can put a 1 under it. Or anytime you have a negative in front of distributive, in front of the parentheses for distributive property, you can also put a 1 there. So those are 3 occurrences. You can always add a 1 for easy work. So that's like saying negative 1. So that gives me negative 1 times 3v. Negative 3v. Now because this 8 turns positive because negative 1 times negative 8, 2 negatives equal a positive. There we go. I'm going to add 3v on both sides. Look at what I just did, plus 3v. So what I did, I'm going really fast, so I want you to pay attention when you work fast. Where are you putting these numbers so that they match up with their like terms? It's one of the most common mistakes I see everybody make, not just students, all people. Okay, so now we have 9v plus 3v is 12v. Come back over to here. It's the same process over and over and over again. Once you learn the process and do enough practice, it's like taking three-pointers. If you're a basketball player, you get enough three-pointers in the hole, then you just know how it feels every time you're going to jump and shoot, and then you know when your shot is off. Same thing with equations. 8 and 8 is 16, carry the 1, 36. Same thing with equations when you are doing them. After you do enough equations, there's nothing actually changes. You just have to get enough practice in. Here I had the number 3 because in the end I had 36 divided by 12. They were both positive, and so I have a positive 3 answer. So just a few more to work with here, and then I'm going to have you to try a few on your own. Oops, let me make sure I can scroll up here. Technical difficulties. We did all of those, and moving on. So this page had a front and a back to it. Looks like there's going to be just all the same, just a little bit more of combining like terms. Each page should get a little bit more complex. All right, number 7. I'm going to start at distributive property this time. Boom. Oh, look at this. I have to combine two things on one side of the equation before I even kind of start combining across the equal sign. So 6n, these are both positive, lucky for us. 6n and 3n is 9n plus 6. Over here I have 2 plus 8n. Now I can go back to what we were doing on the previous page. So I think what I'm going to choose to do is subtract 8n on both sides. That's easy math. Those cancel out. 2 equals. So 9 minus 8 is 1n. I always put my 1's in instead of just leaving it as the variable n, which is also acceptable. Make this a 1. All right, so I'm going to minus 4 on both of the sides. 1n is over here. Where am I? Minus 6 on both of the sides. That's strange because I'm working so fast. There was no 4 in there. So if I have plus 6, I'm going to do minus 6 on both the sides. Those cancel out, and I have 2 minus 6. All right, so if you have $2, but you owe me $6, how many more dollars do you have to go home and get to bring back to me? It's $4. So you are down $4 or negative $4. So 1n equals negative 4, or otherwise known as n equals negative 4. All right, I'm going to do this last one here for you, and then I'm going to do maybe 2 silently, we'll see. Then I'm going to trust you to go ahead and do the rest on your own. I think you've gotten some practice now and enough examples that you can look back and use the skills that you have for help. I like to make sure I have that negative shown really clearly here because I'm writing a little messy with this graphic pen. Okay, same scenario, except this time I have constants that I can combine before I start shifting things from one side to the other. So I have 6 minus 10 is negative 4 plus 15a 2 plus 6a. Here I think I'm going to choose to subtract 6a on both sides. I think that's the easier math. I always try to look for what would be the easier math, just so I can have a little edge on that. 15 minus 6 is 9a, and that's still positive because that 15 up there was just a positive number. Add 4 both sides. There we go. 9a equals. So now I have 22 plus 4, negative 22. So let me slow down. Negative 22 plus 4. They are different signs. So if you are at negative $22 and I give you $4, how about the $4 that you owe me from the previous problem? I give you back $4. You're still in a negative, but you went up more negative, so you'll still be at negative 18. It's another way to think about it if you're not remembering the rules. Just put it into practice and think about if it's all money. We all understand our money, or choose to try to understand our money. And again, I got a -2 answer because here when I divided, one term was a positive and one term was a negative. All right, I'm going to do these last two for you. I'm going to kind of do them in silence, speed it up maybe, and then I want you to try the last 11 and 12 on your own. All right, here we go. Okay, here we go again. And then here we go, take 3, the best. It's not that easy working with this graphic pen. All right, persevere. Wait a minute, I have a 7x minus a 7x. I had to stop there. This one is a positive and this one is a negative. So if I give you $7 and you give me $7 back, you're still left back with $0. I'm sorry about that. So those actually cancel out. Those are inverse or opposite to each other. I love that one. That just made my work very easy. And the final one is x equals the number 5. Awesome. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and challenge yourself to finish numbers 11 and 12 on your own. I know you can do it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, send me a message. If you are in one of my classes, just ask me in class. This here was a homework assignment. Again, I will put the link below so that you can go ahead and practice on your own if you do not have the paper in front of you. I am the Miss Peg. Please subscribe, get Algebra 1 help, and also feel free to send me any messages or comment what type of videos you need so that you can be successful in your Algebra 1 class. All right, especially if you're in the state of Florida where you need that Algebra 1 EOC pass in order to graduate. All right, so that's it for me. Signing off, and have a great day. In a moment, because I have to get... Okay, now have a great day.